Hello, everybody, and welcome to Snack Break, the perfect podcast pop on while preparing your cup of tea or ideal snack or beverage. It's a bit of an emergency episode today because, unless you've been living under a rock, or you're just not a nerd like me, you will know that San Diego Comic-Con 2024 is going on at the moment, and Hall H has given us some pretty big things to be excited about, both in the space so far. My two main ones have been Doctor Who and Marvel. Today we are going to be discussing the latter and what were basically the 5 main announcements, around 5 big announcements that we got regarding the MCU and everything attached to that. So if you want a rougher cut episode today, something a little bit different that's just going to simply get you up to date with everything they've announced, then you have come to the right place. Let's get into it. Okay, so things were kicked off as we expected, a bit of stuff to do with the obvious big new Marvel film coming out at the moment. Let's all say it together. Deadpool and Wolverine is obviously coming out at the moment, not Madam Web on DVD and Blu-ray or whatever the heck you thought it was. So they opened with a dance number for that. Obviously, I know Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds, alongside Kevin Feige, were doing something to do with Deadpool and Wolverine the other day, although from what I can gauge that was nothing massive. So after the dance number, which seemed very fun, we had stuff about Captain America Brave New World, which is obviously the next big Marvel movie, or the next Marvel movie coming after Deadpool and Wolverine, which I think is a really strong lineup, I have to say. I know we've got not WandaVision Season 2, Agatha All Along in there in the middle, and maybe something else, I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head. But on the movie front, that is definitely a really great way to follow up Deadpool and Wolverine with something that is a little bit more family friendly. Obviously, I presume this will not be R-rated, but has that edge to it. And that's something we've definitely seen in the trailer, what with the Thaddeus Ross stuff, played by the one and only Harrison Ford, who made, much to everyone's delight, an appearance in Hall H to just really talk about how proud he is to be joining the MCU, which, as a Star Wars, Indiana Jones, you name it, fan, is really, really exciting. We found out that, this has come from IGN, I should mention, go check them out, they're absolutely amazing, always great at reporting things like that, and I use them a lot for the podcast. Apparently we got new footage from the Captain America movie. From what I can tell, that's not online anywhere or in a non-leaked way. I mean, it's not been officially revealed to the public. Obviously, a few weeks ago now, we got the trailer, which in my opinion was absolutely amazing. But we did learn that Thaddeus Ross is looking to Sam Wilson to help rebuild the Avengers. And following the announcements we got later, I'm going to be really curious to see how that ties in with everything going on the Avengers front. Also, shout out to the Friends from Work podcast. They mentioned that they were mentioning in one of their recent episodes that obviously we spotted the Celestials in the Captain America Brave New World trailer, and they were saying how they hope that they are mining that dead Celestial for adamantium, which IGN says is one of Marvel's most precious materials, and we now know that is official news, which is really, really exciting. Furthermore, we learned that Giancarlo Esposito of Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, The Boys, The Mandalorian fame, will be playing the King of the Serpent Society, Seth Volker, otherwise known as Sidewinder, in the movie that is coming out this February. That's February 14th, 2025. As I mentioned before, that trailer looked so promising to me. I wasn't entirely sure what to think of this movie. I think the initial backlash when it was originally announced was that we were told, in what was maybe a little bit of a misguided move from Marvel, that this was going to be putting Sam Wilson through his paces. And I think a lot of people felt, well, we've kind of already got that, what with Falcon and the Winter Soldier having released way back in 2021. Sorry, my dog is going crazy at the postman. So if you can hear that, there you go. Indy's going crazy. Little behind the scenes footage from the recording. But that trailer just, partly the Russo brothers' involvement with that, and also just the trailer is amazing, and Harrison Ford and Sam Wilson's great, and it's all just wonderful, and I just love it. And it's getting me really, really excited to have a proper espionage thriller, Cold War esque movie again. Similarly, coming from a similar vein to, wow, that's a decade ago. The Winter Soldier. Yes, I knew it was something to do with him. Give me a similar vibe to that, but obviously coming 11 years later and fresh up to date with everything going on in the MCU. So that is really getting me excited. After that, obviously coming on to the next cinematic release following Captain America Brave New World, just a few months later, May 5th, 2025, day after Star Wars Day, obviously. We are getting Thunderbolts with a little asterisk, which we still don't know very much about, but according to the press, Marvel premiered the first Thunderbolts footage, reportedly a trailer, at San Diego Comic-Con, which surprised me. Obviously, they always pull out big stops for San Diego Comic-Con. We do still have D23 to come later, in a few weeks' time, later in the summer. They always go early for Comic-Con, but May 2025, it very surprised me that they actually showed footage of it. Just how much that was, I wasn't at San Diego Comic-Con, obviously, so I'm not exactly sure. And they had the cast come onto stage, including the Red Guardian in full character mode, which was very, very funny, and actually gave more of a light-hearted impression of the movie than I was expecting, and that they are actually a team, and they actually care about each other, and they're not just tough guy anti-heroes who are doing it for the job. I don't know, it surprised me a little bit, but definitely leaving me a bit more optimistic than I would have been beforehand. So glad they've got footage out for that. I'm curious to see what becomes of that in the coming weeks and months. After that, in the panel and in chronological release order, actually just 2 months after the release of Thunderbolts, wow, we'll barely be out of cinemas, and just about a year from now, we got a subtitle for the long-awaited Fantastic Four MCU movie. It is now officially titled The Fantastic Four First Steps. And first, I have to admit, this has been a film I've been really excited for a very, very long time. And I was admittedly a little disappointed when I first heard it's going to be set in the 60s. We've got this new logo and it's an alternate universe. And it's not sitting with me as well as I would like it to still. But this has definitely got me more excited. We know we're probably going to be getting a lot more Fantastic Four stuff, with them eventually bleeding over into the MCU, presumably with Secret Wars. Hence the subtitle, First Steps. Marvel actually released some early footage, which apparently showed Mr. Fantastic, Pedro Pascal, leading an old-school science program, and The Thing taking part in a dating show, ahead of its production beginning this Tuesday. That is a quote from IGN. With the plot stuff, they were there. I was not. And they appeared, the cast, Pedro Pascal, Ewan Moss Backrack, Joseph Quinn, and Vanessa Kirby all took to the stage for our first look at the Fantastic Four as a unit. And Quinn said, I think we're all collectively going to bring an essence that is family rather than thinking what we individually are going to bring. It's a team sport. Very, very promising. As I said, I'm getting more and more on track with this film from my original sort of backlash, I suppose, to seeing the logo change. My original hopes for an MCU Fantastic Four movie would be that they do what I think the original films maybe struggled with, was that bringing the Fantastic Four, which obviously come from the 60s, right up to date as the comics have done, and making them cool and slick enough to stand alongside the rest of the MCU. So I'm slowly becoming more optimistic with this one. My little theory, I don't know how well it's going to turn out, is that we'll find out more about the Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, hopefully in pretty drastic ways, at D23 this year. But hey, time will tell. However, we are not waiting for D23 for big announcements this year, because after that, we got our look at not only who the next big villain following the Kang controversy and everything, Loki's hopefully tied that up well, our next big villain in the MCU. And I have to say, I wasn't sure what they were going to do with this one, especially since before everything that happened, I was fairly hyped up for Kang. I thought he was a suitable villain to follow the Thanos level threat. Although, as time progressed, ignoring the actions of Jonathan Major, the timey-wiminess of everything began to and the multiversiness of everything began to give me doubts. But we now know that the MCU's big villain is going to be Doctor Doom. Yep. It's happening, people. It is finally happening. And who is playing Doctor Doom? Well, they revealed that in classic Marvel style. Just with, their trademark anonymity and just class, had a legion of Doctor Doom cloaked individuals coming onto stage as a group before a particular Doctor Doom in hood and green classy suit, probably cost a lot of money, coming on stage before unveiling his mask to reveal Robert Downey Jr. Yeah. That's right. The man who found new levels of fame and really defined a new point in his career as Iron Man and kicked off the MCU to the most stellar start imaginable and continued to do it for 11 years straight, is returning to the MCU as what we hope to be one of its greatest villains. Of the role, Robert Downey Jr. said, "New mask, same task. What can I tell you? I like playing complicated characters." He sure does. IGN says it's unclear how many films Victor Von Doom will appear in, but we know he's at least set to play a part in Avengers 5. This is so exciting. I had originally hoped that Cillian Murphy, as I know a lot of other people had, would be the hand to take the actor behind this role, although it's flipping Robert Downey Jr. I don't have problems with it. I'm a very happy boy. Marvel have fed me well here. And yeah, I am just delighted. I do have to wonder about, again, IGN mentioned, how long will this be happening for? I've got to sort of look at the larger scale here, bigger picture. I do wonder a bit, is this going to be a permanent role? Whenever somebody returns to a role, I do always think, well, when are we going to have to say goodbye again? Because in a way, I kind of feel the MCU is just getting over Robert Downey Jr., you could say. But nonetheless, really excited. He's going to be great in the role. And does give me a little more hope regarding the Iron Man side of things. I was always somewhat anxious about the Secret Wars multiverseness of the MCU regarding Iron Man. I really did just want that to be left where it was, because obviously that was just such a perfect conclusion to the character. I didn't really want Tom Cruise Iron Man or whatever popping up, or Robert Downey Jr. in the role again. And the fact that he's returning to the MCU as a quite startlingly different role, obviously mega villain as opposed to mega hero, does provide me with a little more hope on that front. Or if we do get an Iron Man appearance, that it will be done right. I don't have very much theorizing on this side of things so far. I do wonder, is it some sort of... somebody mentioned an alternate version of alternate version Iron Man in a different universe fighting Thanos and harnessing dark magic, and that's sort of how he becomes Doctor Doom. I think something along the lines of that, were they to tie things up, could work well, although equally someone said he'll be wearing a mask a lot of the time, and they could have him so heavily maked up. It's a few years down the line. I'm not saying that Robert Downey Jr. looks like he's aged significantly. No, not at all. But you could make him look distinguishable from Iron Man, I think. So I think that could work fine. Actually, before this announcement, though, and I'm doing this slightly out of chronological order, sort of, I suppose, in my levels of excitement for what has been announced, we got a brand new title for the May 2026 Avengers movie. The first part of what I'm referring to as the Secret Wars 2-parter. 2 years after what was, I believe, was originally called the Kang Conquest, we have a new title, new director. The first Avengers the first half of this Avengers two-parter will be called Avengers Doomsday. We got a sort of green silver logo that just matches the Doctor Doom side of things so well, which will of course be followed by Avengers Secret Wars. My original theory for this was always that going into Secret Wars, Doomsday will be more of the fight, and Secret Wars more of an adaptation to this new world. Maybe we'll get Miles Morales in there somewhere. All that jazz, all these worlds colliding, and the Secret Wars will maybe be more of exploring the ramifications of Doomsday. Not in an endgame, let's fix it way, but there's a new world and there's some things that need to be addressed. Whether or not that's what happens, I don't know. Doomsday could be setting the pawns in place, and then Avengers Secret Wars finally sees us getting to an all-out multiversal war. I don't know. What side of the comics they take it from is up for debate. Presumably it'll be the Brian Michael Bendis? The Brian Michael Bendis side of things, as opposed to 1980 Secret War, although it could draw inspiration from all over the place. And the directors for these two movies, well, it's only the Russo brothers. Yes, they are back. The visionaries behind Captain America and the Winter Soldier, Captain America Civil War, and the two best Avengers movies, Infinity War and Endgame, are returning to the franchise, not only to keep a little eye on what's going on with our good old boy Captain America, or the new Captain America. As he said, he's not Steve Rogers, he's Sam Wilson, but to keep a little eye on the Captain America side of things, but to helm the next two Avengers movies. Those are May 2026 and May 2027, which, especially after a sort of 2 years later of the original announcement of the next Avengers two-parters, it's a bit of a wait, although I'm happy we've got enough great content coming up in the next few years to, I think, really satisfy us. As I may have mentioned earlier, I'm not entirely sure about the TV side of things. That's sort of something Marvel still needs to address a little bit. I know they are still in the process of pulling back the movie side of things. And actually, through going through these dates, it appears that things will be ramping up again very quickly. Again, there's only 2 months between the release date of Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four First Steps, as we're now going to be calling it. But nonetheless, I think I'm confident that they're going to do things well. They've got the right team. Presumably the Russos will bring their old team, or as much as they can, with them. They've got Robert Downey Junior back on, for goodness sake. And I think May 2026 could come around on the content side of things faster than we will expect. And hopefully in a really pleasant way, what with just the approach that Marvel's taking. I'm a bit more confident again. And hey, I'm somebody who wasn't hating all over recent MCU, but it's only got me more excited for the next chapter of this amazing storytelling extravaganza. This has turned out to be longer than I expected, so I'm going to wrap things up very quickly. Thank you very much for listening to this emergency episode of Snap Break. I've been Medical Blue. This is Huncap Power Production. I'm part of Team Blaze. See you soon. Stay safe. We'll have a Doctor Who video coming soon about all the San Diego Con announcements there. See you soon. Stay safe. Bye.